Hi, I'm Alderwoman Sheila Finlayson, and welcome to our Annapolis. We have with us today Ms. Elvia Thompson with Green Drinks. Green Drinks is a program that's been around for the city for some time, and I thought, let's share with the community what it's really all about, because I know there are wonderful things going on. So thank you for being here, and tell us about Green Drinks. How did it come about, and who founded this organization?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, first of all. Green Drinks is one of the projects of Annapolis Green. We're a nonprofit, a different kind of environmental nonprofit in Annapolis, in that we don't focus our attention on one river or one stream or one project. We're sort of all over the place. Anything that has to do with making our community more sustainable, cleaner, and greener, and healthier for everybody. So if we want to start with Green Drinks, that's one of the things that we do. About 10 years ago, when my co-founder Lynn Forsman and I got together, she was the owner of a nautical charter company. So she chartered boats, and she tried to start a green boating program, but she was way ahead of her time. And so since that wasn't working so well, somebody told her about this program that actually started in England called Green Drinks. And it's international. There are somewhere between 600 and 800 chapters all around the world. So you can plan your vacation. You can go to Buenos Aires or Hong Kong or Moscow, Paris, anywhere, and go to a Green Drinks event. And basically, it's a networking party for people who are interested in the environment. And they're all different everywhere around the world. And we are one of the biggest in the United States, in spite of the fact that we draw from a relatively small town. So we're behind Seattle, Chicago, San Francisco, and of course New York, which is the big daddy. They draw 100 people. But we do these events roughly once a month, and always in a different place, because we try to showcase a restaurant or some other venue that is on the path to operating in a sustainable manner. So it's always a different place, and that also helps us support local business, which is part of sustainability, and always with a different theme. So it's a party, yes, and it's happy and everything, but we teach people something every time. So the topic could be supporting local agriculture, it could be driving electric, it could be sustainable restaurants, people that source locally. It could be all about stormwater management, always a different thing. And part of the philosophy behind that is that environmental issues don't have to all be doom and gloom, although they certainly could be. But we try to showcase things that are working. People were just worried about their river, their creek, their issues. And I wanted to do something to bring them together. So the easiest way was to establish a website, which is annapolisgreen.com, to put all the information out there, to provide information that would clear up things that people were confused about. For instance, what's the difference between the Chesapeake Bay Trust and the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the Chesapeake Bay Program, just for starters. And then everybody had calendar items. So the calendar was born online, and now it's the most complete environmental, or shall we say, sustainability calendar in the area. So whatever's going on that people who are interested in the environment or in sustainability or supporting local business should know about is on that calendar. So then when Lynn and I combined forces, we started sending out an email blast and collecting email addresses to people who wanted to give them to us. We didn't just randomly, try to get them. And Green Drinks grew to between 100 and 200 people once a month. So it's really quite a force. And people come, meet others of like minds. Business deals are made, friendships are made. We've heard about a couple of romances. And it gives people an opportunity to meet who otherwise would have no way in the world to ever meet. For instance, let's say that somebody is a solar installer. Well, when would they ever meet the head of the Chesapeake Bay Program? Exactly. At Green Drinks, that kind of thing. And you've been there yourself, and you've enjoyed it, haven't you?
Absolutely. Now, I remember one event that was at the Lowe's Hotel where you received a national recognition.
Yes, and that was recent. We affiliated with Keep America Beautiful, so we are now the second Keep America Beautiful affiliate in the state of Maryland. So our moniker there is Keep Annapolis Beautiful. And so that is another project of ours. So that anything that has to do with waste reduction, recycling, that sort of thing, all goes under Keep America Beautiful, but operated by Annapolis Green. So
Okay.
that's another project that we do.
Well, that's quite an honor and a big task to take on in addition to what you're already doing.
Yeah, but it opened up opportunities for grant money and for turnkey projects. And I'll give you a for instance. We are shortly going to launch a program that we're calling Scuttlebutt, which is all about keeping cigarette butts off the ground, because when people just flick the cigarettes and cigars too, they end up in the water. And what a lot of people don't know is that those filters are actually made of plastic. And we already have way too much plastic in the water as it is. So it doesn't, people think, oh, they just degrade, they're made out of cellulose or whatever, and they go away. Well, they don't. They don't. They just become smaller and smaller bits of plastic that the fish confuse for food, and they eat it.
You mean the filters
Yes.
and the tip end of the cigarettes? Is
Yeah.
Plastic?
Have plastic in them, yeah. Now, there may be some cellulose in there, but
Yeah.
largely it's plastic.
I would guess most people don't
Right.
have a clue.
Right. But the other thing is the unseemly nature of having these cigarette butts
yeah.
all over the place. It just looks terrible. It's, you know, and whatever is on the ground ends up in the water. And we want to keep our waters clean because, you know, we all love our rivers and our bay here. So our emphasis is the same thing, but a little different. So we're able to get programs that have tried and true from Keep America Beautiful that include public service announcements and the ability to get cigarette butt receptacles that we can then give to restaurants for them to encourage their patrons to use those. But we always ask something back. We're not just going to give a restaurant a beautiful, silver cigarette butt receptacle. We're going to say, okay, you need to put this on your menu. You need to put something, a window cling or something on your door that tells people don't flick it.
Yeah.
Put it away, and dispose of it properly.
I remember vaguely Keep America Beautiful coming into the schools.
In the 60s,
teaching-
yeah.
Yes, and I'm not that old. Obviously, I am.
I am.
But I am too. But teaching young people how to be concerned about their environment and to not litter.
Right. Well, there's a direct correlation between a place that looks clean and taken care of and the economic value of that place. People don't want to go somewhere that's dirty. It's the broken window theory that you may have heard of. If there's one broken window, there's going to be another one. So that first broken window has to be fixed immediately. Otherwise, people will think, we don't care about that place. And there's so many examples of towns that just by beautifying, and landscaping and keeping it clean, their entire economic base has come up. So we think that that's very important here. And obviously Annapolis thinks it's very important too, given the support for Annapolis in Bloom downtown, all the hanging flowers in the pots. So yeah.
And people acknowledge our beautiful flowers. They come from far away, as you know, and there's always a picture somewhere in their album with the flowers on Main Street or on the bridge or whatever.
And we worked with the city to raise money for that, to bring awareness that it's not tax money. There is, I believe there's some city money in there, but we did at a couple of our Green Drinks events. One at Homestead Gardens, which is the company that actually brings the flowers and takes care of them. We did have a fundraiser for the flowers there. And I was lucky enough to work on some of the graphics. So that's another project that kind of falls under Keep America Beautiful too. So it's beautification, litter reduction, waste reduction in general, and recycling.
You have another program, REF?
We do. We noticed some years ago that there are so many special events in this town. I mean, almost once a day, everything from small things like regatta parties to really big ones like the boat show, the Rotary Crab Feast, the Renaissance Festival, big events like that. Many of them did not traditionally even recycle, let alone compost or anything like that. So big events like that made a big dent in the landfills around here. So we started with the Seafood Festival in Sandy Point Park, working with another company and bringing in the ability, the big containers for people to be able to recycle. But it isn't just that. It's not just providing the containers. It's also providing the marketing message. Why is this important? and very important, what goes in this bin, because people get so confused. You see people walk up with their hands full of food containers and everything, and all of our bins have lots of signs on them and everything, and they'll look at what they have, and they'll look at the container, and they'll look at what they have, and they're still confused. So the education process is a big part of it, and that includes the event planners, not just us. And what this program, REF, which stands for Responsible Events and Festivals, make the right call, because it's the green REF, so we kind of brought in the sports part of it. We now have that so that it is a sponsorship-based program. So that means that, let's say that we have event A, let's say it's a regatta party. We go to local businesses to ask them to support the recycling and composting effort with financial contribution. So it brings a business that may have nothing to do with sailing or regattas or anything like that to the forefront, showing their logo as a company that has a responsibility ethic, and supports this event. And then, so that's the sponsorship part. And of course the cost depends on how big and whether it's just recycling or it's recycling and compost. And then the event planner has to pledge to us that they will do X, Y, and Z, that they will put the sustainability message on their website or in handouts or whatever it is. And since I did mention regatta parties, we've also worked several times with an organization called Sailors for the Sea, which is the organization that greened the America's Cup, the last America's Cup, which was very successful. It was a super green event, everything about it. And also the Newport stop of the last Volvo Ocean Race. So that's what it is, and we are looking for corporate sponsors that have a corporate responsibility ethic, as part of their mission, to come on board with us, and for a small amount of money, get their logo out there, connected with taking care of our planet. So that's what we're looking for.
You have such broad-reaching programming. How big is your organization? I mean, how many people are working on these projects?
Mostly it's Lynn and myself. We do have volunteers that help us with different things. We also have a board of directors that we have just ramped up since our affiliation with Keep America Beautiful. That all kind of fell into place at the same time, but that was just in the summer. And we have a committee for fundraising and a committee for projects, and so that's all just kind of starting up. And we would welcome people who are interested in what we're doing to join us, very much so. We need business people. We need people with nonprofit experience. Everybody's got a talent that they can contribute to this. And that doesn't, the thing that I believe that attracts folks to us is that we work with everybody. We're not trying to take away from a riverkeeper organization or anything like that. We want to work with people, whether it's advocating for good environmental law in the legislature, which we do, or if it's a project like a stormwater project. We work with everyone to get the word out, help get volunteers, help raise money sometimes if that's appropriate, but just make people aware that there's something they can do, because there's more to it than just awareness. That's not enough. You have to have a call to action. You have to tell people, okay, this is what you can do.
Right.
And yes, climate change is coming, and a lot of people are saying it's doom and gloom, but we all have to do something.
That's right. And this could be a little something.
Yeah, lots of those little things add up, right.
It sounds in part that you have to impact economic development in the city. So you're going to be working with the business community. We've just developed a partnership with the county and hired a staff person. Do you expect to be working with her, and how do you think you're going to impact
I hope so. I do know Hollis Minor very well, and I'm very excited about her job. And we do work with the county all the time. We know the county executive very well. He's one of our supporters, one of our financial supporters, as was the previous mayor. So I think we have a very good working relationship with both entities of government, and I think that there's a lot of good by putting some of these things together instead of having them overlap and kind of trip over each other. I think that's just a brilliant idea to do this, and we definitely will be reaching out for that. We can do a lot in terms of bringing kind of different ideas to this, and helping with getting the word out, marketing it.
And I suspect most businesses don't really have time to think about it. And the fact that you can bring the ideas and the suggestions to them, that in most cases they'll probably readily embrace.
Yeah, well, we're very lucky in this area that there are a lot of people who have this at the very front of what they're thinking about, top of mind. We have any number of restaurants, for instance, that operate in a super green manner. That this is just second nature. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done so that this is what Lynn and I always say, we want to put ourselves out of business. We want operating, everybody thinking like this to just be a matter of course, so we don't need it anymore. That would be the ultimate wonderful thing.
That would be ideal.
And we would like to see our waterways clean and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, I serve on LGAG, which is the Local Government Advisory. And almost every meeting when we talk about it's made up of elected leaders from all the headwater states, Pennsylvania, Virginia, DC, Maryland. And we talk about what strategies are best practices.
Right.
And then someone comes along and says, it took 300 years to mess this up. It's going to take 300 years for us to fix it.
No.
And it's like, then why are we working so hard? No one wants to believe that it's going to take nearly as long. But if we all do a little bit now, a little bit more than what we're doing, it can have a tremendous impact.
The thing is, it's the mindset. It's got to be the good of the planet above the good of the dollar, because it's the only planet we have. And every once in a while, somebody will say to me, well, I don't care. I just don't care. I don't have time. And to me, it's like, okay, well, where exactly do you live? Nobody's going to go mess up their living room. Well, why are you messing up the place your living room is in? And we just have to stop thinking in short term about the bottom line. There's a triple bottom line, So it's economics, it's the environment, and it's public health. And public health is another thing. I would like to see our public health agencies out there carrying the banner of environmentalism, because there's a direct connection. I think it's a little fractured right now. And so that would be a good thing to work on, definitely.
Well, this may be taking us so far-fetched, but our area has a very high cancer rate. And I know Johns Hopkins is studying it, and probably any number of other research institutions. I have a nagging feeling that it has much to do with the environment and as much to do with the waterways.
Yeah, actually, it has to do also with what's called the air shed. We all know what the watershed is, but it's the air shed. So our air comes from the Midwest, from the industry that still remains in the Rust Belt states. That all comes in this direction. And in fact, a lot of the pollutants that are deposited on our waters come from the air, nitrogen in particular. So scientists would probably say they don't have enough proof to say that, but it just kind of makes sense. Our air looks great, except on a day when it's really humid and all that, but that's water vapor. Our air looks good, but it's not good. It's not. So these are the things that need to be taken care of. And one way is for people to drive electric.
Yes, you have a program with electric cars?
We do. I'm a member of the Electric Car Association, the local one. And yes, and I drive an all-electric car. Now,
really?
I have friends who are cynical who say, oh, look at that, your car's powered by coal because our power plants are largely powered by coal. Well, yeah, that may be true today, but the state is requiring that more and more clean power, and the president is requiring that more and more clean power be purchased by the utilities. So I have no qualms about that. I think it's great. At the back of my car, I don't have a tailpipe.
That's interesting. Yeah. Coal has cleaned up, though. Not so much. I thought, and maybe that's
less of it being used.
Yeah, and I thought the coal-producing plants, not coal-producing plants, but where they, after they get it out of the earth, whatever they have to do with it, that they were cleaning up their acts. So there's not as much release into the airways from...
Well, there may be some, but it's still the burning of fossil fuels, and that's the whole problem. That's what's causing climate change. And even if we stopped burning all fossil fuels right now, the carbon that's in the atmosphere now is still harmful. So we've got to stop this as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're going to have tropical diseases in this area because it's going to be so hot. I mean, everything's going to change. The ecology is going to change. So that's, people say, well, the scientists are alarmists. No, they're not. They're just looking at the reality of it. Yeah,
They're scientists.
Nobody's got any other reason to bring this up. There's no other purpose other than to warn people that the clock is at 11:59.
I have to ask about composting. You mentioned it several times, and I'll be very honest with you. I do recycle, and I keep my cheat sheet close to make sure I know what I'm putting in the right. But composting is going to be hard.
Well, composting is something that can be done if you have a yard. It's not difficult. You have to be very patient, though, when you do home-level composting. When we collect compost at special events, we work with a company called Veteran Compost, the only licensed composting farm in this area. And they collect so much from local restaurants, from hospitals, other big institutions, and our events, that they can do the composting on an industrial scale. So they have piles that are 30 feet high, and they turn them with tractors, and they pump air into them, so they break down in 2 months. So that is how we could collect 26,000 pounds of crabs, corn cobs, watermelon rinds, plus the dishes, the spoons, the forks, and all that from the Rotary Crab Feast that was held this summer. Because that farm has the capability to turn all that into dirt in 2 months. You can't do that at home. You can't put in bones and shells and all that kind of thing at home because it would take 100 years for it to break down. But on an industrial scale like that, you can. So if the city decided to do even a pilot project, where people would collect all their food scraps and put it in a special container that's closed so that dogs and everything can't get into it. I mean, it takes some doing. It would keep so much out of the landfill. It would just be terrific.
I have to say, I went to Annapolis Royal a number of years ago. That was a sister city in Canada. And every house compost. And I had an opportunity to look inside. I saw a snake in my backyard 2 years ago, and I haven't spent 10 minutes in my backyard since. So
he was there before you were.
And you know what? He can have it because it's not my yard anymore. It's his. And he was only this big, but he could have been. So the thought of having something, you said keep it out of clothes from dogs and raccoons and all those, that just frightens me. I guess the worms do too. When they
but
come.
the worms are great composters.
Oh, they're worms. But
vermiculture is a terrific way to compost, especially as a project for kids, because you can just have a plastic bin. Doesn't have to be higher than this, with some little holes, poked into it so they can get some air. You rip up some newspaper, and then you put in your scraps. The grape you didn't want to eat, the tomato that was bruised, whatever. It's not smelly. It's not leaky, it's just fine.
Just worms.
They don't care. They don't want light. They just want some air and something to eat.
Well, I'm going to have to grow up a bit more for that one, I can tell you.
I know what your Christmas present's going to be.
Oh, no. So, well, is there anything else you'd like? Anything else that's exciting that's going on?
Yeah, I just want to tell you about the different aspects of our Responsible Events and Festivals program. We have one for waterside events, which we actually started with the Annapolis Boat Show, and that was such a success that the boat show folks bought their own recycling and trash bins. So they're launched. They're on their own. And so we call that Red Right Recycle, which is a takeoff of Red Right Return. So waterside events are kind of like co-branded that way. And then we started with running races. We did the 10K Across the Bay race in 2014. We brought composting and recycling to that, and a message about, okay, you runners, maybe, I think it was 10,000 runners, many of you are from out of state even, from far away, but as you're running over the Bay Bridge and you're looking down at this bay, this is what you're looking at. So we supported also the 10K Across the Bay's cup-free racing. So at many long-distance races at the water stops, they have little Dixie cups that they hand to the runners. Well, that makes an incredible mess. because the runners drink it down, toss it on the ground, and off they go. And yeah, the race staff comes and picks it up, but there's always something left, So a lot of races now are going cup-free. And we were able to help with that by providing for sale these little silicone pouches that the runners could fill up at these very fast pouring stations. That we were working with a gentleman who invented that, a Naval Academy grad actually. And so these little silicone pouches filled up very fast. They'd drink it down and then they just put it on their belts because it weighed nothing. And it kept everything clean. There were no cups anywhere. It was just great.
So they reuse them?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So we had composting and recycling capability at the start of the race. And at the finishers party at the end as well. So that, and we call that run responsibly.
You guys are so clever.
And then for the Rotary Crab Feast, we developed a special saying for them, and that's bay responsible. Not be responsible, but bay responsible, so that the Crab Feast was bay responsible, in that everything there other than metal cans and a few plastic cups were all rolled up, put into the compost bin, and they collected 26,000 pounds this year, 20,000 the year before. So it's very successful.
Awesome. And again, it's just you and Lynn and your volunteers.
And we also have a radio program once a week on WNAV on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. Kind of like Green Drinks. It's always something different. We interview people and we just get the word out about what's going on.
And it's every week on Wednesday at 6?
Yeah.
Every week on Wednesday?
Every week, just about. We've stopped a couple times for vacation, and also we seem to get preempted by the Orioles. Imagine that.
I can't imagine why that is. Do you have sponsorship type programs?
We do. Yeah, we're happy to take any donations. Of course, it's tax deductible. But we do have a program that's called the Founding 100. So we're looking for 100 people who can donate $1,000 to keep our programs going. We're up to 41 Founding 100 sponsors so far. And that's separate from our sponsorship program for specific events. So this is kind of seed money to kind of keep us going, to pay for printing and our email blast account, all that sort of thing. And we do take advertising on our emails as well.
So if residents wanted to reach out to you, how would they get to you?
AnnapolisGreen.com.
AnnapolisGreen.com.
Right, our email address is on there and everything, and we have about 3,500 people on our email list. We don't give that list to anybody. We don't sell it or give it away. And we don't email all that often, once a week or less, so they're not bombarded, but there's a lot of news packed into our little email newsletter.
Well, I read it religiously, so I can
Thank
attest
you.
to that. So if anyone is interested, they can go to the website to green.com.
AnnapolisGreen.com.
AnnapolisGreen.com to connect. And I suspect there's a link if they want to contribute, they want to volunteer, or just to learn about all of your activities.
It's all there. Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing, and you guys are doing an awesome job.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate it. We love this town. We love this county. And we just want to do our bit, and bring everybody else along with us.
And we'll work on putting you two out of business.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And I'll work on getting you to like worms.
Good luck with that. Thank you. And so this is Alderwoman Finlayson signing off. Till next time.